news of yesterday really came out of the Parliament, and the sectoral debate presentation yesterday from the Ministers of Health, Christopher Tufton, Dr. Christopher Tufton, and Transport, Daryl Vaz. Two very vital areas two very vital areas of national life, health and transport. And I want to begin this morning with a presentation by Dr. Tufton. It was wide-ranging, as it was a reiteration of the policy initiatives of the Holiness Administration. Yeah, but there were also some new developments. And Tufton addressed an issue that is gaining attention, and that is our aging population. Our aging population and how we're planning to take care of those who are in the winter years of their lives. Yeah? And he said yesterday that the government is moving now to expand its capacity to satisfy the needs of that aging population of Jamaica. He said the country must prepare to address what is a growing need for critical care among seniors.
Towards the need to prepare for aging population, adopting societal structures including the workforce, health systems to address this evolving demographic landscape. And so from health's perspective, we are looking to the future. What do? We're preparing the health program for older persons plan, which seeks to maximize the period in which older persons maintain good health, wellness, and functional independence through the promotion of healthy aging through this life course approach. Building the capacity of at least 90% of healthcare practitioners in primary care to identify and manage healthcare needs in older adults and to provide allied health and rehabilitative services to older persons with complex health and disabilities needs.
Dr. Christopher Tufton, he said that the population is indeed aging, with a proportion of people 60 and over expected to increase significantly in the coming years, decades. The trend is being driven by increased life expectancy, people are living longer, and a decline in fertility rates. Women are having fewer children. Yeah? Another important aspect to be addressed is the specific needs of elderly women. Yeah? One such need, he pointed out, was menopause. Yeah? And of course, menopause describes the stage of a woman's life when her menstrual cycles stop permanently and she can no longer get pregnant. She's no longer fertile. Dr. Tufton says he's tasked Professor Denise Eldermeyer-Shearer with developing a clinical response for this segment of a woman's life.
Menopause, we know, is neither a disease nor a disorder. Let me make that clear. However, it impacts the state of mind and the overall wellness of so many of our women, some of whom begin to experience symptoms as early as in their 30s. This is what the research says. There's also growing evidence that there should be a clinical response to this personal life stage experience. I've therefore asked a team headed by the Most Honorable Denise Eldermeyer-Shearer to explore and establish a standard clinical response for this life stage. It is time to recognize, Mr. Speaker, that our women experiencing these symptoms should not be experiencing it on their own. Yeah. They deserve support, particularly in the context of an older population for the future.
A very, very important point. Very important. And, you know, it is admirable to see the administration being sensitive and alive to some of these issues that are very personal, but at the same time posing real day-to-day challenges for Jamaicans. Yeah. Menopause is a huge issue, but women suffer in silence. Yeah. And they also are subjected to scorn and abuse on this matter. Yeah. In Jamaica, infertility is seen as a stigma. Yes. How many times you hear the term, go away, you can't breed, you're barren. Yeah? And we don't know when we cast these slurs on women, what they do to their self-esteem. Yeah? And the trauma we put them through. And this matter of the aging population, we have been reporting and commenting on that parliamentary committee being led by Government Senator Shireen Campbell-Golding on drafting legislation to better protect the elderly and care for them. They continue to meet in that special select committee of the Senate yesterday, and they heard from the opposition spokesperson on social transformation and protection, Patricia Duncan Sutherland. Mrs. Duncan Sutherland, in her appearance before the committee, supported a call for the appointment of an elderly advocate.
I would support, in addition to that, the elderly advocate, because that is the avenue through which you would get that legal support and to get that heightened protection of a very vulnerable group. And as was said, a lot of times the abuse that takes place is by family members, right? And so it's hard if you don't have an advocate to be able to walk with you in that process, because you're not going to want to report it. Because, you sit down there and you're just wondering how my picnic could have done me that after all I want me to do for that.
Yes. And it's one of the issues being dealt with and being grappled with by members of the committee. She says an elderly advocate would provide legal help required for the more vulnerable. This would include serving as power of attorney in circumstances where there's no other family member.
I think that it should be given some powers with respect to the programmatic review, like an advisory council. In the Child Care and Protection Act, there's an advisory council that has oversight over the programs and how you execute, etc., etc. I think if they got that level of authority within the law, I don't think they have it now. I know that it exists, but I don't think, because we don't have a law that it would have oversight over. So if you have an Elderly Care Act that defines the rights and defines the duty of care of the state, of the family, of the caregiver, then in that context you could strengthen their ability to have that oversight, so it's not just a ministerial oversight.
Patricia Duncan Sutherland. Another submission to the committee is for the creation of a commission to continuously review the implementation of the Elderly Care Act. That proposal was made by aging expert Professor Denise Eldermash-Shearer. The same person the health minister told us yesterday is being tasked to develop a clinical response to the issues surrounding menopause. And the proposal also suggested by the founder of elderly, when I heard the term elderly advocate, I thought of this name, of this woman, Jean Laurie Chin. She has been an advocate, yes? She doesn't have the title, but certainly the work that she has been doing with the Caribbean community of retired persons that she founded, CCRP, she would be an ideal candidate for the job of elderly advocate. The health system has been under scrutiny for decades. Our health system struggles, especially in those years when we didn't have a decent amount of revenue to really maintain the level of care that we would love. And yesterday, in the sectoral debates, the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, sought to defend the billions of dollars, he says, that the government has spent on the entire system, and in particular on the rehabilitation of Western Jamaica's only Type A hospital, the Cornwall Regional in St. James. According to Minister Tufton, it's money well spent. It has been under renovation since 2017. Yes? And he also dealt with the issue that has been argued by the opposition, that he has wasted the money, that they have spent $24 billion so far, and yet we are still some time away from the completion of the hospital. The PNP has made heavy weather of that figure. Well, to our surprise yesterday, Dr. Tufton said, no, that is the estimated cost when totally completed. And then he said what they've actually spent so far is $9.4 billion. Here's more from Siobhan Campbell's report.
$9.4 billion. That's how much Dr. Christopher Tufton says has actually been spent on the Cornwall Regional Hospital to date.
I also reject this mischief that this price tag is based on some cost overrun. Let me just outline. The government has so far spent more than $9.4 billion on Cornwall Regional project, not the $24 billion. As a matter of fact, every time I hear opposition member reference Cornwall Regional, they move the figure from 23 to 26 to 27. Up to now, up to this point, we have spent $9.4 billion, $620 million on professional services, $5.8 billion on work, $235 million on medical equipment, $2.2 billion on the operation of temporary facilities, which needed to be put in place to deal with the persons who are in the facility and subsequent treatment of others, and close to $524 million on support services.
The Health Minister is rejecting claims put forward by the opposition PNP that the project's price tag has ballooned to $24 billion. According to the PNP, after 8 years and the alleged $24 billion, there's still no Cornwall Regional Hospital. But Dr. Tufton says the opposition has been erroneously quoting the full estimated cost of the project. He says that figure has yet to materialize.
The much talked about 23 billion price tag is a projection. Yes, it's by us, it's a projection, but we haven't spent it as yet. And we are not there yet. The narrative, therefore, of criticizing cost overrun based on $24 billion is not only an exaggeration, it is a dishonest description of the challenge that we face at Cornwall Regional and the approach that we have taken.
Cornwall Regional Hospital, which is the only Type A hospital serving Western Jamaica, was shut down in 2016 due to complaints of noxious fumes. The facility has been in renovation since, with many key services relocated to different hospitals. The PNP has called on the Auditor General to conduct a special audit of the project to ensure that tax dollars are not being mismanaged. But Dr. Tufton says Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis is already probing the project, and he welcomes the scrutiny of her office. He believes the government spending on the facility to date represents value for money.
We have consultants on this project that are not based in Jamaica. Back to the value for money issue. And when you compare what it would cost to build a 40,000 square foot space, as Cornwall is, in the United States of America, I am told that it would cost anywhere between $700 and $1,200 US per square foot just for the building. Cornwall, that would equate to up to about 45 billion Jamaican dollars for a similar establishment. Cornwall Regional, if the projections follow through, which we expect it to, will be built and equipped for less than half that amount. And from that perspective, Mr. Speaker, I think we are getting value for money, and I believe the people of Western Jamaica and Jamaica will be better off for the decision taken by this government.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Siobhan. So, the PNP parliamentarians and constituency caretakers do not understand that there's a big difference between what is provided for in the estimates of expenditure and the projected budget as against what is actually spent. They do know. They do know, but they're being dishonest when they argue that we have spent over $20 billion and still no Cornwall Regional. They know the difference. They do. And that is why in this era of disinformation and misinformation, that, the truth become a casualty of reality. And indeed, the levels of lying that I see now taking place, not only in Jamaican politics, but in US politics, and the classic use of misinformation and some downright lies by the President of the United States, I think is one of the chief causes of this problem we're seeing in the world today, where people lie blatantly. And after time, if you repeat a lie enough, for some people, it becomes a fact. And it's a poison that we are witnessing in our politics. And Trump has legitimized it. Yeah. And he was elected President of the United States twice, despite the American people knowing that he's a congenital liar. Yes. And we see it seeping into our own politics now. You just look on social media. Yeah? And it's now here where we lie. Yeah? And repeat it often, you get away with it. Tufton also said yesterday that the government has invested nearly $4 billion in upgrading primary care facilities, and this has been done through the regional health authorities.
In fact, Mr. Speaker, I look back at the last 5 years and the expenditure on primary health care, health centers, equipment, and personnel shows that some $3.88 billion has been spent across the 4 regional health authorities to upgrade primary health care facilities. And it's all there. 99 million for Westmoreland, 87 million for Trelawney, 205 million for St. James, 49 million for Hanover, and I could go on and on. Every single parish have gotten an allocation for health centers as part of our primary reform upgrade. Mr. Speaker, to my mind, it is a self-serving, at times deceptive, and I may be even so extreme as to say dishonest narrative. I urge us to cast our minds back to 2015 and just look at how they left the health system. Simply put, it was broken, Mr. Speaker. The news headlines during that year, 2015, tells the tales, Mr. Speaker. In fact, I don't recall at any point in time during this administration any health worker, any surgeon making the statement that surgeons had to don garbage bags in order to perform surgeries in the public health system. I'm also happy to announce, Mr. Speaker, that we see the need for additional operating theatre capacity. As a result, we are building out as we speak, and have built some already and more to come over the next year or so, 27 new operating theatres to add to the capacity of operating theatre. That's a 37% increase in new operating theatres over the next 2 years.
Christopher Tufton. Well, those are promises, Dr. Tufton. Let's see if you'll get it done. Yeah?